Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for the Game Boy Advance. This is not my first Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone casual review. The first one I did was for the PlayStation 1 version, and it's not abnormal, especially for licensed video games, to have two different versions of video game, one for consoles and one for handhelds. When I saw this game at a used video game store, I got really excited because I remember as a child playing the Game Boy version of Harry Potter and it being actually like a really cool turn-based RPG. What I got when I put this game into my Game Boy was a top-down action game. So I was pretty confused until I did a little bit of research, and fun fact, as far as the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone video games go, there are 5 completely different versions of this game, all made by different developers. And so the turn-based RPG that I was thinking of was actually the Game Boy Color version of this game. Needless to say, I was a little bit disappointed, but I decided to play through this game anyway. For the majority of this game, you will be going around as Harry Potter and firing flipendos at enemies and to hit switches. There is a platforming element to this game, but not in classic terms of like jumping. Most of the time, you will be timing your movement with these moving platforms, and if you mess up your timing, then you will fall down a pit. This was completely detrimental to my morale because if you go into a level and you fall down a pit, even though you have plenty of hit points left, you will have to completely start that area all over again, which made this game exceptionally frustrating for me because some of these levels can take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, and if you just take one misstep, or if you move onto the platform at just the wrong time and you fall in between the cracks, you gotta start that whole part over again. The combat itself isn't anything to write home about either. It takes Harry a while to charge up his flipendo spell and launch it at an enemy. Meanwhile, the enemies are just running towards you, and Harry can only aim in 8 different directions with the D-pad, and so it gets kind of difficult and tricky to aim at the characters. The enemies themselves aren't that varied. You'll be encountering these little imp creatures. Some take only 1 hit, some take 2. You'll be encountering these snail-like creatures. They're usually not too bad. They just take a couple extra hits. As far as like enemies firing projectiles at you, you're not going to encounter that many. Occasionally you'll encounter these pixies that you can only merely stun with a flipendo spell. So you kind of have to lead them to these plant-like creatures that will eat them for you. So that's basically the combat. It's not difficult by design. I think the game, as far as its combat and platforming elements go, it's difficult just by nearsightedness and lack of polish. The puzzles are pretty lackluster as well. I wouldn't even necessarily call them puzzles. Usually a lot of the things are timing based. You have to find where the switch is at the wall and launch a spell at it, or you have to find a floor switch and you have to like push a log onto the floor switch. Eventually you will unlock the Wingardium Leviosa spell and you can use little statues to put them on the switch. You'll also learn the Lumos spell, and this was another frustrating element about the game because whenever it's nighttime or you're in a dark room, you need to cast the Lumos spell in order to see the whole room, to see the whole screen. But the unfortunate thing about the Lumos spell is it only lasts about 30 seconds before you have to cast the Lumos spell again. And so you might be in the middle of combat or in platforming, and then the screen will go dark again, and then you gotta cycle through all your spells and find the Lumos spell. There are 2 other spells that you'll have. You'll unlock Alohomora, and occasionally you'll find these mirrors or these locked doors, and you use that to unlock the door. There's another spell that turns stones into birds. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but those are your 5 spells that you'll be cycling through. Usually you'll mostly just be sticking to the flipendo spell. As the story goes along and you'll unlock these spells, you'll go to, your Defense Against the Dark Arts class, and you'll play a Simon Says game where your teacher will point their wand in 4 different directions at different times, and then you try to repeat that. Then you'll go into a little level all by yourself, and that utilizes the spell that you earned, and you'll usually have to find like 5 stars or collect 5 potion ingredients. It follows the main story of the movie and book very loosely, and usually that's just through dialogue. The dialogue is pretty much word for word that is in the movie. You'll just complete one of the levels, you'll collect the 5 stars or whatever, and then Hermione or Hagrid or Ron will just spout some lore to you. Oh yeah, so-and-so, Nicholas Flamel. Oh yeah, Fluffy. Oh yeah, Professor Snape. And then you'll just do some unrelated gameplay. In fact, a lot of the game is actually you finding potion ingredients for a Wiggenweld potion for Professor Snape while they just briefly talk about the main plot. Graphically, it looks fine. It's pretty much what you would expect from a Game Boy Advance game. I particularly like the larger models like Fluffy or the troll in the girls' bathroom. As far as like pure story moments, basically they'll just show you a still picture with text. I'm particularly nostalgic about the Game Boy Advance graphics, and so I do have a fondness towards those still images, but that's probably one of the best things I can say about this game. You'll have 5 hit points or lightning bolts in the corner, and in order to rejuvenate your hit points, you will be able to eat hidden birdie bots every flavor beans. Occasionally you'll eat one and it'll say yum raspberry or ew gross broccoli flavor, or you'll find a big bag of birdie bots and that will heal your health completely. In terms of collectibles, there's really not that much to try and 100% complete this game, just the hidden chocolate frogs and you'll get a card. It's not really like how it is in the PlayStation 1 version. They don't tell you a description about one of these famous witches or wizards. Basically it's just an image of Dumbledore or Salazar Slytherin. It's not that long of a game, honestly. I feel like for the majority of it, it's just doing these levels. It kind of felt just like a stereotypical licensed game, something that the developers didn't care that much about. They do sometimes mix up the gameplay with a couple Quidditch matches where it's a top-down view, you're just trying to fly through the rings that the Golden Snitch leaves behind, and then you kind of have to get your timing right in order to grab the snitch. But I just think that it's really lacking the charm that was in the PlayStation 1 game. And granted, that's probably because that's the version that I grew up with, and I'm particularly nostalgic about the PlayStation 1 version, but I don't think any Harry Potter fan is missing out by skipping the Game Boy Advance version of this game. Does that mean I'm going to skip the other 3 versions? No, absolutely not. I still would eventually like to get to the Game Boy Color version because I am interested in a turn-based RPG in the Harry Potter universe. There's also a version for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube, and there is a version for the PC Mac. So call it morbid curiosity, but I would like to compare and contrast all 5 of these different versions eventually. But as for this version, I'm going to give it a 1 out of 5. It really is just one of those games that you give to Timmy. He plays for about 10 minutes until he gets bored, and then it gets lost underneath the car seat for years. Well, folks, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for the Game Boy Advance, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!